Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the OTT.X Wednesday Webinar Series. On behalf of myself, Eric Hansen, and all of us here at OTT.X, we are so happy you're joining us today. Whether you're watching live or on demand, it is our privilege to share with you the experience, insights, and wisdom from the people that are shaping the OTT CTV industry. Data about content performance, customer behavior, content trends is vital for navigating the stormy seas of the OTT and CTV business. But even with all the data in the world, it's easy to get lost in a morass of numbers, stats, or sink countless hours, nights, and weekends into munging data sets to create janky spreadsheets that still might not illuminate the key signposts that you need to understand what's going on in your business and the environment. Trust me, I've been there. As Bill Gates famously said, how you gather, manage, and use information will determine whether you win or lose. Very true. So organizing your data into a set of systematically generated interactive visualizations that are consistently presented in a dashboard can be a powerful way to cut through the noise and give you those eureka moments about your business and key decisions. So here to share Whip Media's experience and ideas about reporting systems and dashboards, and to regale us all with the advantages, many they are, I'm excited to introduce Michael Sid, Chief Strategy Officer at Whip Media, to the OTT.X webinar stage. Hi, Michael.
Hey, how are you? Thank you
I'm
very
doing great.
much.
Great to have you back with us.
Appreciate the intro. Happy to be here. All right, shall I get started?
Why don't you get rolling?
All right.
I think you're going to do some questions partway through.
Absolutely. So I'll be presenting midway through, right before I go into a demo. I'm going to pause and happy to take questions at that point.
Awesome. So if you have questions for Mike along the way, queue them up into the Q&A bin, and we'll grab those partway through. All right. We'll talk to you in a little bit, Michael.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Eric. All right, so as Eric said, and as he introduced, this is really about the power of those visualizations, those content performance dashboards, to help you maximize fast channel profitability. And I think if you'd seen the advertisements for this presentation, I think, and I'll read it. It's basically says that the dynamic world of fast channels, dashboards are not just tools for tracking data, but are essential for strategic content decision-making, audience understanding, and financial success, ultimately giving you a competitive edge in the market. And I'm going to show you some powerful best practice dashboards in action, offering you some cross-platform insights to really help you gauge content performance across multiple platforms to help you enhance viewer experience, financial performance, and profitability. So with those lofty goals for this presentation, I am going to dive right in. And just by introduction, my name is Mike Sid. I am the Chief Strategy Officer for Whip Media, a company that was formed a few years ago through the acquisition of MediaMarkt, a company that I had founded some time ago. So, high level, I don't think it's terribly controversial, but new digital channels like FAST have a huge potential for monetization and audience growth. And I think the key word in this slide is potential. So yeah, it can help you. It can drive monetization. It can drive audience growth, but it's potential. Just putting the channel out there is generally, unless your content is is really stellar, in which case you're probably not monetizing enough. It's potential. So what we're going to talk about today really is how you need data to transform that potential for monetization, audience growth into reality. So I guess the question that you would probably ask is, why do you need data? It's just because Eric said that Bill Gates said that you need it. I don't know, probably good enough for me. But to broaden that a little bit and give some other points there, let's talk about sort of three broad ways that data helps you do. For one, data helps you make programming decisions for your fast channels. So here's just a depiction on a fast channel and what's showing at different times of the day on that particular channel. Don't even remember actually which service I took this from. But given those time slots here, and this is linear television, the question certainly is which titles work better in which time slots. So you need data to understand that, especially kind of early in a channel's gestation, and seeing what works at what different times, seeing if your flow of different titles is something that's going to work, or are people going to be abandoning that? What is it that what is going to work? So you need data to really understand that. You need data broken down to a time of day, time slot, day part level to really get to that. And certainly, the corollary of that is that sometimes you're going to need to replace some content, either because it's been in there for a while and you want to keep things fresh, or because it's simply not working. And again, you need data to tell you that, to tell you, okay, well, what do I need to replace, both in terms of the time or stuff that's just not working? I need to identify that. I need to figure out, what I need to replace. And of course, what content do you have that is going to work on your channel? So, answering that question, doing sort of like for like by what has worked, that also is something that is you need to do, and you need data to help you make that decision. So that's about programming and essentially the user experience, how you're going to produce a user experience that's going to work. It's key for your curation, it's key for your programming to really have data to inform that and to not necessarily make the decision for you, although there are some who are flogging AI packages to do that. But I think having human curation, having that sort of that human editorial position, in a channel is incredibly important. But you do need data to help you make those decisions. Let's talk about performance across platforms then, because you don't have your channel just on one platform, hopefully. You'll have it on multiple platforms. You'll have essentially the same content, more or less, that's going across multiple platforms at the same time of day for your channel, more or less. And so there's a depiction of one of our customers, MotorVision TV, and their channel on Pluto, Zumo, and Plex, approximately the same time slot as when I took these screenshots. And you can see it's really kind of the same content that's going across this. And it's some, different metadata differences, which are a little bit interesting as well. But what you really want to know is the results of this, right? Is your viewership going to be different by platform, by time slot, by day? So, are you seeing different behavior in Pluto versus Zumo versus Plex, for a particular time slot, for particular content? Because that will certainly give you a hint about, in terms of your viewership, is your channel position right? Is there something that you can, now you know who to talk to? You're doing better on, say, a normalized way in Pluto than in Zumo, so you need to talk to the folks at Zumo or the talks at Plex, maybe in terms of promotion, maybe in terms of channel position. Of course, the reason that we're all doing this, or one of the reasons, is monetization. So are you monetizing the right way across every platform? Obviously some platforms have different levels of audience, of course. So you need to normalize these things, but it's data. You really need to have that data to understand how you're monetizing across platforms. Are you doing better on some platforms than others? Certainly, you definitely, and, you look and across territories and comparing across territories and platforms within territories. All those things are things that you need to compare, you need to understand, and you need data to be able to help you do this. Lastly, and these are just 3 examples, there's many, many more. Data gives you by title revenue for content accounting. Why is that important? Well, the obvious reason is if you've acquired some of your content that's on your channel, you're going to need to report to those content providers by title revenue, because they're most likely doing that for a rev share, unless you pay the standard license fee. But generally, fast folks are paying rev share rather than straight license fees for inclusion there. So of course you need to be able to report that to your content providers. For your own content, though, even if you're producing yourself, you need to attribute revenue to productions. So if you produce the content yourself, you need to be able to, show that back against your production and get at title profitability. Whether you've acquired content or whether you're producing it, kind of helpful for you to understand title profitability in the aggregate and for the attributed cost that is on FAST, as you're likely distributing your content in multiple ways. So all of those things are important. I don't think anybody's going to, sort of deny that, you need data to help you with programming and curation. You need data to really keep on top of how each of the different platforms is producing for you, and where you need to work with them, where you need to intercede, and where things are going quite well. And lastly, of course, getting die title revenue for content accounting. So none of these things are terribly controversial, and having all these things in a dashboard helps you, certainly for the first two categories, really explore them a bit better. So, the visualization just helps. It's easier to do. You don't run into, it's really kind of pre-programmed reports, if you will. So you don't run into all the difficulties of generating your own reports or trying to figure that out and introducing some, some issues there when you're comparing it. Because, you're programmers, you're folks that are working with monetization. You're not necessarily researchers. You want to spend your time really exploring and understanding the data and running your business. So you need to get your data into a dashboard, clean data into a dashboard, clean views where you can see all these different things and really understand it. Unfortunately, there are a few hurdles to having this happen. And it's unfortunate. And the reason for it, or the biggest reason for it, is that FAST is a very complex ecosystem with a lot of different parties involved. Of course, there's the fast channel provider, which may or may not be you, as you may be supplying your content to go to a fast channel provider. You have your tech provider in here, the Magis, Whirls, Otera, Frequencies, BitCentrals, and many others, who are helping you get your channel together, letting you program your channel, and really kind of creating your individual channel, which you're taking then and putting on fast platforms and services. And there also there's even another level here where you've put your content, it's in Pluto, and then from Pluto it's syndicated out to somebody else like Vizio. So there's levels within levels within levels. If you're monetizing your content directly, then you have monetization platforms. If you're getting backfill, say, you may be going to somebody like 47 Samurai and using them for your backfill. So there's just, there's just a lot of different parties within this ecosystem. And if you want a dashboard that's really going to tell you all about it, you get one little piece of data from each of these different places. So you've got to sew that all together, and you've got to combine it. So let's drill into this a little bit. This idea of of the data being quite disparate, the data being fragmented. So what exactly am I trying to tell you? What exactly do I mean? So let's take it back from all this ecosystem, right, where you might get your data. So certainly you've got your tech providers. So if you have a channel, you've signed up with either one of these, or there are others, or many others actually, in this industry. But here for the big ones: Amagi, Frequency, Whirl, Otera, which many of you use. And probably the first question you'll say is, Mike, what about? I have dashboards right now on Amagi, Frequency, Whirl, and Otera, and I agree, they are lovely dashboards. You do have dashboards on them. However, the data that's contained within your dashboard on Amagi, Frequency, Whirl, or Otera is only where these platforms are providing CDN and actually the actual playout, the actual streaming of the content to the actual platforms themselves. In some cases, the platforms allow and even encourage it. In other cases, they don't. And then oftentimes it's a case-by-case basis, for particular channels, as to what is happening with these guys or what's not happening with these guys. And that can depend, of course, on your contract with each of these companies. So you'll get a set of data from here. And oftentimes, if you're doing platform rev share, you're not really going to see any of the revenue data, but you'll get a set of the viewership data from these guys. Then you'll be getting data from, say, Roku, who gets the content from these guys, but does all the streaming out themselves. Pluto, which does the same thing. So you'll need to get your viewership data directly from there. Freevee, Amazon's going to stream its own stuff out. It's not going to let any of these guys intercede. So again, from Freevee, you'll need to get you'll need to get data directly from there. So you've got, now, given that your channel is on multiple platforms at the same times, you're getting, as I was mentioning before, a little bit of data from each of these sources. Then we go a little further. Samsung, which does accept CDN, but lately has cut back on the data it's allowing the tech providers to provide. Actually, there was a notice that went out from the tech providers on that a few days ago. And the data is slightly different. So if you want to get more detailed data, you've got to go into Cascada and get that data, that data directly from Samsung. Then you've got others, Plex, who is good at playing with others, and the other guys here, but revenue reporting's got to come from Plex because they're doing the platform rev share, as with and Sling also is providing their own kind of reporting. And just for each of these, there's a Roku portal you got to go into, there's a Pluto portal you got to go into, there's a Freevee portal, there's the Samsung portal, there's Plex portal, Sling sending reports, Vizio sending reports, and I could go on and on and on, but I've run out of space on my page here. So each of these different things, you're going to portal, you're getting different reports, you are getting some subset of data though from your these other providers. So you would think though that a large part of the problem is served by the data that you're getting from these guys, and that's true. That absolutely is true. But if you want to tie it together with the data you get here, you're going to need to export the data, and you're going to need to export the data in a way that you can manipulate. So one of the problems with the data from the tech providers is that they've got these beautiful dashboards and great dashboards, for the data that's in there with a zillion different types of views and ways to see it. They're generally really nice. I mean, actually universally really nice. We've seen most of them. They're all really good. But if you want to download it, you're sometimes kind of stuck with one of these guys. If you want to download daily viewership by title, by platform, by channel, by territory, if you've got 3 channels, that's 270 files a month that you're going to need to download to get that data. So that's not great. That's a little bit laborious, you may say, to download something 270 times from your tech providers, and it can be worse than that. This is actually fairly typical. And then the data that comes straight from the partners, as I mentioned, hiding their names to be kind. The data is, so this is rev share reporting, revenue reporting from 9 of the biggest fast services. And you can see it's not often at the right level. Remember, we're talking about revenue by title. Well, there's only a few of them where you can get that revenue by title. A lot of it comes instead in a lump sum. And the granularity, does vary all over the place, as do the metrics that you're getting from each of these. And let's say you do manage to get all this data, you manage to get it all down. What are you left with? You're left with a mess of spreadsheets that you somehow got to combine together. And that is kind of the problem. And it's a problem that's really fantastic if you really love jigsaw puzzles. So if you really love doing, say, a jigsaw puzzle every single day, doing different puzzles every single month, it's kind of like you put that puzzle together each month, you break it all apart again, and you do it all over again. If that's, what you really love, then this is actually a problem that is very well suited for you. But if you don't, well, of course, this is my commercial, and after this, we'll take a break. But with media, Fast Track, our Fast Track product, will automatically collect, ingest, and normalize all this data to let you understand how individual titles perform across all partners. So we'll retrieve, ingest, and normalize the data from your technology providers, your platforms for viewership, for revenue, for ad data. All of that comes together, gets tied to your titles. And there's various other work that we do on it, data manipulations, and gives you clean, normalized reporting and dashboards. And the dashboards that we talked about across all of the platforms that your content is distributed on. And now, finally, talk about what we started trying to get to, which is how to use content dashboards to maximize fast channel profitability. But I'm actually going to take a pause here and ask if there are any questions that anybody has.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And to everybody watching and viewing from your home or office, drop some questions in to the Q&A bin. We'll get to them as they come in. Michael, you've done a great job of sort of illuminating the complex web, or the kind of the matrix of the many attributes that have to somehow that are actually really valuable when they do come together. And I guess I hadn't really thought that much about it, but just like the content itself, the platform, the time slot, the day, what your monetization strategy is, and the territory, all of that you have to understand, and because it can really actually impact your business a lot. And but if you do understand it, I think, and if you can compare all of those things, and even try experiments, let's try this piece of content on in this time slot or on this day, and see what happens. But without being able to get the results of your experiment, you're really, honestly, you're flying blind.
Yeah, exactly. It's that, let's see what happens, but how do you know what happened, right? And how are you able to really compare it unless you've got this data together? And getting the data together, unfortunately, is a little easier said than done. But
Yeah.
I guess if there's no questions now, I'll stop again at the end of the presentation
Mhm.
to address any questions that may have come up. But now let's get into some dashboards, and I'll show you them.
Sounds great.
Share my screen again. So we'll jump actually directly into them. So here is an example from our system of a revenue dashboard. So you can see some of the things that we try to make clear on our dashboards, just a headline case, so you can always be aware of where your business is, trending as you see month by month, where your revenue is. This happens to your revenue dashboard. We're going to a viewership one next. Understanding sort of your revenue by platform, how that's been trending by platform, seeing where that splits out by channel, by business model, looking at your trend of impressions over time, really trying to understand, all of that, all of that data, and giving a glance, having a dashboard can be excessively helpful. And then certainly once you get into the viewership side of things, it's similar here. You again want to see, trends of your total views by month, and how that's going on, where you are in a given time period, platform by platform, where your viewership is is developing. And this is all just from our demo environment right now, so it's not real data. And then obviously the viewership trends of those platforms. So having sort of that complete view, seeing your different channel views, understanding the minutes viewed by your different channels, all of that, information dashboards make available to you. So the beauty of this, right, is that you have this information right in front of you. You've got the, you understand, you can see that cross-platform view right then and there. That there's been work done behind it to get it correct. You can, of course, like in our system, just like any other system, generate reports on your own or create your own self-service reports and all of that. But there's always going to be some caveats behind that. This way you can make sure that everybody in your team, everybody that you're working with, has the same sort of access in the data. A dashboard has that guardrail, so that it takes all of the the differences in the data sources into account. And then of course you can export the data and drill in deeper, and run self-service reports, and find a bit deeper, like what you really want. We have some fun ones here, like a country map here with little heat charts, say by country viewership. Where are you getting the most viewership? And yeah, the US certainly dominates and fast, as we all know, both in terms of viewership and in terms of revenue. But you can see that there is some, all around the world. It's it does crop up in in different areas, everywhere you go. So that, so having these, having these viewership dashboards, having these revenue dashboards, this is what you need to, to really understand, to be able to compare, and to be able to sort of think through what you need to do with your business, sort of think through what you need to do with your programming. So let's look at some title level stuff. So, we also have dashboards that go into, viewership by episode, by season, by series, really understanding what's happening there. And say a powerful thing here is a cross-platform view for a particular show. So let's say that, this is Super Trains or whatever. And, you're able to really see your, net revenue by platform, your viewership by platform, the minutes by platform as are going on, really lets you zero down into, into where you need to be, where you are, and, where you can figure out where you're going to. So this is just a taste of some of the dashboards that we have, within our system. Let's talk a little bit more about how you would use some of these metrics. Let me go back to my presentation here. So let's talk a little bit about date part analysis. This is quite important for things like new channel launch, for platform parity. This is just an example of a report from our system that you can see here, by morning, midday, afternoon, evening, overnight. So these are kind of the Nielsen delimiters. You can take a look and have a comprehensive view. In this particular case, I think that it's minutes, it's views. So number of views. So you can change the metric that you want. But really, by being able to see that, which titles or which channels are working at different time of day, that's important for your new channel. So as you're launching new channels, as you're replacing content, that's when you're doing a lot of your fine tuning, and that's when you're doing a lot of the, oh, okay, maybe I need to shift this around and move this around, and you really want to see your results week on week. I just showed this for a particular time period, but you can also compare week on week and month on month, and you can really see the impact of your changes. It's like Eric was saying, right? I mean, you need to be able to experiment to be able to change things out, but you need to be able to compare results. So that's where the data comes in. And with dashboards, you can be focused then on what you need to do in terms of changing these things, as opposed to this lengthy manipulation of getting the data together. And then you can start to do things like understanding the differences between different platforms in day part performance. So you'll see that as well. You'll see, where, oh, okay, well, why is my channel doing a little bit sort of relatively differently in the midday slot? Why am I not seeing, say, the bump that I see in other channels in the evening slot? Why isn't that happening in this platform? And it gives you, it's sort of the things to target when you're talking to the platforms. So that's how you can use it. And of course, cross-platform metrics are very important as well. So really understanding platform parity or non-parity, as the case may be, that's kind of the key to driving performance. And again, the dashboards show you all of those different things. You really want to be able to understand the trends across platforms. Are they growing at the same rate? Are they not growing at the same rate? Are they diverging? What's going on? And that actually can give you certainly, a hint as to something that might have changed. Maybe your channel position changed. Maybe you're not getting the promotion. Maybe some other competitive channels have come onto that platform, but it tells you where to look. And that's almost the hardest thing, right? There's so many different platforms you're distributing on. You have so much content out there. You can't just check everything all the time. You need the data to tell you what needs attention, where you need to look, where you need to, where you need to kind of get at things. And the same thing too, you obviously need to have a cross-platform view, and you need normalized platform metrics for you to really compare between platforms. You want to understand monetization in a relative term. How much is each of the platforms bringing me, relative to their size. And then this drills through other things, through advertising metrics, viewership, day parts, as we talked about, and lots more. I mean, it's really, cross-platform obviously is the way to really understand, and the way that to drive performance, the way to, as we came back to our original topic, to really make sure you're monetizing right, is to make sure that across, where your platform does, where your channel does take off, that you understand why it's doing that, and see if you can replicate that across the other platforms, maybe with cooperation of those platforms. But you can't really tell that story, and you really can't figure out the answer without having data. So kind of to summarize, data is having dashboards is really critical to your fast channels, and because starting with it as we mentioned, you need data. Data is critical to managing your fast channels. There's no just one number. There are just so many numbers that you can look at, so many ways you can do analysis. You need to have this data so that you can change the way you're looking at things also, from time to time as you come up with new ways of analyzing things. Dashboard's the best way to review data quickly. You can have data, right? So this is another thing too, which I didn't cover. You can have data, but you've got to use that data. You've got to leverage that data. And the best way for teams to use that data is with dashboards. I mean, we've seen that, with media, MediaMorph has been in the performance tracking business for a long time. We've been doing this since I founded the company back in really 2008. So we've definitely seen that our customers who are looking at their data in dashboards are really the ones that use the data. You can have the data there, and the data can go certainly in reports that people look at. Having your dashboards, that's when people can leverage, and that's what drives performance. And we've seen that year after year, time after time, customer after customer, across all of our dozens of customers. As I mentioned, and as I spent the first part of this presentation belaboring, getting the data for your dashboards, it can be a challenge. And it's always been a challenge to get the data together for dashboards. Fast, as a media, it's especially a challenge, because of the number of platforms that you have. It's a non-exclusive media, and unlike something like, TVOD or EST, which is also non-exclusive and where you had your content in the same territory, multiple platforms, with fast, the metrics are different. There's a lot more metrics. It's not just units sold and price. It's all varieties of different viewership and revenue metrics that you've got to consider. You've got to consider fill rates, like your advertising metrics that I just talked about. Understanding if one platform is doing better, filling the opportunities that it has, or another platform is, and that can drive some of your choices and decisions as well. You may want to renegotiate and take you may want to take a bigger inventory share, or take or sell the advertising yourself for that particular platform. You have to pull it, but you need data to be able to really understand that. And getting that data is, as I mentioned at the first part of this presentation going through, kind of hard in the fast ecosystem. Cross-platform analytics, really comparing one platform to the other. That's really the way that you're going to understand, what your channel can actually do and how you can actually take it higher. And you need to be able to compare platform by platform. Day part analysis, I mean, nothing new. It's been around forever for linear. It's critical for effective programming. People have been using it from time immemorial. And what's true of traditional television is absolutely true of fast. And in the last bit on a little commercial, we can help make this all a lot easier. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time for a demo. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that may have come up.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Michael. You've hit on a lot of, I think, powerful insights when it comes to data and presenting it. One thing I thought you mentioned, I think, is important. If you're working with a team on your analysis, and I think many times we are, I can remember spending the first 15, 20 minutes of a meeting where you're trying to analyze what's going on in your business, just trying to agree on whose data is right, or what right. And so having a dashboard and a kind of a common source of truth is super important, because you just end up arguing about what actually the truth is, let alone
100%. I mean, Excel is powerful. You can do a lot of different things with it. You can pull, when you're pulling data from different reports and combining together, it's I think two people doing it will oftentimes come up with two different results. Three people doing it will come up with three different results, from potentially from the same starting point. So it's important to have a common version, and they could all be correct with different caveats. Is the interesting thing.
Yeah, the truth can be whatever you want it to be if you've got an Excel spreadsheet. So I have a question for you. Well, what does an integration or an implementation project look like if I was going to come to y'all and say, I've got some channels, I've got some platforms, they're all sending me these reports, and I can download all this stuff. I give up. I really need to spend my time running my business, not trying to make reports out of gobs and gobs of data. How long, might it take to
Yeah.
put this all together?
Sure. So the way the process works with us, is for our standard, fast track tracking is when you come to us, we'll ask you, where are you getting your data from? Who's your tech provider? Who are your different where are the different platform sources that you're getting data for? And then when we set up your account, we'll populate all of that. If data is coming from a portal, as indicated earlier, we'll need to get your credentials. So this is a secure way for you to enter that information in. And then the second thing that we need is for you to upload your title master, as we're mapping to titles within our system. Then the system starts cranking away and starts to retrieve data. And depending upon the level of services you've chosen from us, we'll either do some of the initial, setup and cleanup work, or just hand that over to you, and the data will just continue to flow in. So we have a list of standard platforms that we already have integrations with. That's something that we're increasing all the time. So it's about 60 right now that we currently have what we call our standard integration with, as opposed to the many different flavors that we've done in the past. And that list is constantly growing as we encounter new ones and standardize the way that we're getting our data. So it generally is something that a matter of getting back and forth and making sure that we have the connectivity, but it's a few weeks usually.
Wow, that's actually really fast, and that's an amazing number of platforms. Well, so you have a, a deep understanding of each of these platforms and what their data set, because they all look different, what their data sets look like, and then you can normalize all of that and pull it into a single
Yep,
structure.
that's our what we call our standard list, or standardized platforms, where we've already done the analysis and the normalization on. If it's outside that list, then we have a process of doing that analysis and adding to that list. But this is just going to grow and grow over time.
Okay, that's super powerful to be able to deal with that. What about changes though? If one of these, and I'm sure they do, right?
Yep,
Add new field or they change something. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have so there's a number of ways that we detect changes. If the format that we're pulling is just different, or the procedure of the retrieval is just different, that's going to throw up sort of automated errors on our side, and our team then gets on it to adapt the method the data is being retrieved or the data is being transformed, sort of immediately. This happens a lot. I mean, we have our standard set that we've done for Fast Track, but we've got probably about 800 platforms that we're pulling data from for our enterprise customers right now. And across all of those, there are, every single month, there's dozens of changes. I mean, there are plenty of things that we are changing every month because the platforms change the way they're delivering data. They change their reports slightly. The reports themselves, the ingestion themselves is somewhat adaptable, self-adaptable. So for example, it's just a matter of somebody switched columns or changed column orders or added a new column or something like that in the data coming in, the system just automatically adapts to that. But if it's, they've completely changed their layout or something, then obviously that's a change, or they're adding new metrics, then that's obviously a change as well.
Yeah, especially if you want to bring those into the report. Can you do custom reports in your dashboard?
Oh, absolutely. So we've got two things. So we've got our dashboards, and then we've got our self-service reporting. So the notion is, like you said, there's that common view of the truth in the dashboards. But if you want to drill in, you just go to our self-service reports, and you basically can run any kind of report that you want to. Drill into the data to any depth that you like.
Yeah, that's really important too. How frequently are you seeing, or how would it be available? Like, I mean, a lot of reporting you were showing monthly, and that makes sense. But at the same time, you may want to be monitoring. You probably do want to be monitoring, what's going on, on a daily basis. Is it available to get refreshes that quickly?
So the way that we retrieve data is different. Can be different for each platform or source of data. So if the data does update more frequently, like like daily or hourly, we'll retrieve that at a greater frequency. So we set our retrievals to the frequency of the data being generated at the source. So this is the thing about third-party reporting. It's a little, what we do is a little bit different and a little bit, a little bit both harder and easier than reporting platforms like Google Analytics or NPAW or Jump Data, which focus primarily on owned and operated data, your own data, basically from your own platforms that you own. So if I'm, on Disney, getting data from Disney Plus, it's my platform. I can instrument it however I choose. For third-party data, you don't get to do that. You don't get to, especially as a content provider, you don't get to instrument it at all. You don't get to, have that data. You're just essentially at the mercy of what data that third-party provider is giving you. And as I talked about earlier, it's all different formats, it's all different semantics, and certainly it's all different granularity. So the trick of, for third-party data reporting is to be able to have a systematic way to normalize that data and and make it available and make it easy. I was actually, before this, I was on a sales call talking to somebody who's been trying to do this by hand, and her CFO was saying, we need a solution because this person's about to quit. She hates doing this.
Yeah, and nobody
So we
should
need a
have
way to
to do
do
that,
it.
right? Those are like those are like crummy jobs. We should have better. We have AI.
We have AI, right? We can have the AI do
Why
the
can't
AI do
AI
the
do
current.
that? It should
There
be
you
able
go.
to. Right. Now you actually you mentioned allocations and I think in one of
Oh, I just
your
want to say, I think there's a couple of questions on the feed. Shall I answer those?
sure,
See,
let's
Dan,
take one. This
yeah.
Daniel Schneider is WIP uniformly able to get tracking onto all endpoints so that all performance on all platform partners is accessible.
Actually, that's exactly what we just talked about. So the problem with third-party reporting, as opposed to owned and operated reporting, is a matter of the relationship, right? When you're doing owned and operated reporting, where you've got, say, very major interest in the platform, you have perhaps the ability to instrument the actual platform. When you're one of 300 content providers, or you're one of 2,000 content providers, you don't have that same ability. You can't go to Apple TV and say, or Apple, you can't go to Google and say, hey, I want to, I want to do this for my tiny content, my amount of content. Also, the thing too is, it's a different relationship. You're the vendor. You're not the customer. The content provider is the vendor to the platform, right? So that's a very different dynamic and relationship.
Mhm.
The platform's paying the content provider. We're inside the content provider. So again, there's less that you're going to, allow your vendor to do, than you're going to allow, say, your customer to do. So whereas a customer, an advertiser, may be able to get like tags and may be able to get like instrumentation into it, and may be able to get,
Mhm.
JavaScript here and there. That's because they're customers, not vendors. So
Yeah.
it's a very different sort of it's a very different dynamic between those who are paying you and those you are paying. So
It's
so in the answer to that, we take data as the platforms can provide it. In some cases, we have some direct relationships where we can get data directly.
yeah, it's been a continual I don't want to say battle, but I guess sometimes it feels like a little bit of a battle. Those that are providing content really want to know how it's performing. And I mean, honestly, it's that. And but yet those that have the information about who's watching it and when they're watching it and how much they're watching it, well, that's their data is kind of the way they're looking at
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And I mean that kind of friction actually is what has led to part of it anyway, is what led to the direct to consumer movement amongst many of the
Mhm.
studios that were previously licensing their content and didn't have their own consumer facing, viewer facing offerings. And so now they have lots of data, but they don't have that much money anymore. So that's
So they've all gone
kind of
back to
problematic.
licensing, actually, and now you see like like Warner titles on Netflix, you see AMC titles on Max. I mean, it's all gone back towards licensing again because I mean, like you can try to go it alone, and there's one or two players who can go it alone,
Mhm.
but beyond that, we all need friends. It's a community. We need
You know
organizations
what?
like
That's right.
OTT.X to bring us together.
It only works. Thank you.
That's
It
what
only works
friends
when
are
we all work
for.
together. And you
Exactly.
need to pull data sets together
Yep,
as well and integrate them. And that's why
exactly.
we're huge supporters of what you're doing at WIP and many of our other OTTX members on the tech and service space, helping solve the problems that as a business owner in this space that you really want to be focusing on what your core business is, not on munging data or delivering it over a CDN. Yeah, this is again, there's a ton of questions and ideas that all of our conversation has brought up for me. One thought is, have you seen, we're talking about this friction between those that have the data about what's performing and those that are actually maybe providing the content. Are there places in your opinion, kind of from what you've seen, where there can be or there has been a little bit of a kind of a meeting of the minds? And I'm just not going to share everything, but
Mhm.
are there places where you're seeing that there's value from the standpoint of if I'm a content provider, if I know what's working, what's not working, I can either license more of that content or go deeper into my library to find more of it to make it available on your platform. So there can be advantages to sharing.
And absolutely. And you think like Fast, especially Fast and AVOD, it's rev share, which means that a
Mhm.
dollar that gets made in advertising, half of it goes to the platform,
Yep.
half of it goes to the content provider. So if you can enable your content providers to program better and increase viewership, both sides make more money in literally equal proportions.
Yeah.
So one would think that it ought to be a cooperative exercise, but there's still like our built-in sort of natural friction. There are reasons for that friction as well.
Oh, for
There's no
sure.
question about it. There's definitely there's definitely reasons. It's not a purely harmonious relationship. I will say though that the EU, the other way to get at this is legislation. So the
Yeah.
EU has now kind of mandated visibility, across platforms, and that includes for FAST. So it's been left to the countries in the EU to determine a implementation for that. And I think France is one of the countries that's kind of gone the furthest with this.
Mhm.
So the starting reports are starting to roll out. They selected a bureau to do this for the industry in France, and those industry reports are starting to roll out. So one can kind of mandate that. I don't think that that'll happen in the U.S. Anytime soon, but certainly that's what's happened in Europe. Although each country needs to actually do it. There's just they need to decide if they're
Yeah.
actually going to do it or not.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, that is a really good reason for, let's see if we can make this work together without having to get the government involved because
Yeah.
it's a lot of effort for everybody. And there's ways that we can like make this work, I think, without that.
Yeah, nobody wants to get like the FCC into this level of this, or in the UK, nobody,
Yeah.
nobody wants to get Ofcom, into
But
this
there is
level.
precedent for it
Absolutely.
now, right? I mean, that's why there's the FCC. That's why
Well, that's why there's Ofcom. Yep.
yeah, so if we don't figure it out ourselves, then there's a chance that it's going to get figured out for us. So I
Sure.
that's another
Absolutely.
good reason for folks to work with us at OTTX and try to develop some of these cross industry solutions. Cool. Well, I think that's our time for today. Michael, thanks so much.
Yeah, Eric, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I really loved seeing what you're doing and the visualizations, really help to illuminate the data points. Otherwise, it's just this giant schedule of numbers. And the answers are in there. They are. But very few people are able to just look at that pile of data and pull out the key learnings. And that's where charts and graphs and things like that, that's why they're there.
Exactly.
Help
It's
you
it's
identify.
having a common version of the truth, like you said.
All right. Well, thanks again, Michael. That was super valuable. I'm a huge fan of reporting systems,
All right.
dashboards, and appreciate the great work that you're doing at WIP. Thanks a
All
lot.
right. Thank
And
you.
thanks everybody, our dear audience, for attending and for your continued support of OTTX. As always, session was recorded and it's going to be available on the OTTX website at OTTX.org, along with an impressive collection of presentations from our online and in-person events over the last few years. A quick reminder to everyone about our upcoming flagship in-person conference, the X-Fronts. It's being held on May 21st and 22nd in Los Angeles. So where everyone in the OTT and CTV industries, from ad agencies, platforms, channels, content providers, technology companies, gather to learn about the latest trends in ad-supported video, share insights about the streaming industry, and learn about the latest content offerings from a wide range of platforms and channels in AVOD and FAST business. It's a ton of buzz about this year's event. We're really jazzed about it. So head on out to OTTX.org. Learn more about it, get yourself registered. Attendance is complimentary for all OTTX members. You can also take care of that from our website. We'd love to talk to you. Send an email to info@OTTX.org. And yeah, let's connect and get everybody scheduled and joining us in at the X-Fronts. So that concludes today's webinar. Thanks again for joining us and for being a part of the OTTX community. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.